Bill?
Mike's coming on. Bob James is not going to be here.
Okay.
Bill from Wyndham?
Mike, me, Bill from Wenham.
Oh, he's here.
I'm here, yeah.
Bill is official now. He is the representative from Wenham.
Oh, he is.
Yes. No longer the alternate. He is the man.
Okay.
Bill Davison, welcome.
Yeah, well,
Bill's
congratulations.
going to have a command sergeant major, or that is the title, right? They still call you top, right? All right, I think we're all set here.
I think so.
Oh, okay, I'm going to
I'm going to press record so you guys know it's recording.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. So first on the agenda, we have a guest speaker, William Davison, Command Sergeant Major, retired U.S. Army Director of Veterans Outreach and Peer Support Home Base Program. So with that, Bill, I am going to turn to, are you at Fenway, Bill?
No, but that's a picture of the green monster that spells out home base.
Ah.
I like that. That was good. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you, Bill, and you tell us about your organization and a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, could you just, we need to introduce ourselves now. This is a new thing, open meeting law that we recently found out about.
Linda, thank you. Okay, Karen, when you start.
Me?
Tyler, yeah.
Sure. I'm Karen Tyler. I'm the District Director for Eastern Essex District Department of Veteran Services.
Mike,
Mike Doyle, Selectman of the Town of Newbury.
Kathy. Kathy Collins.
Kathy Collins, Eastern Essex Veteran Services, Assistant to Director.
Thank you. Bill Wilson.
Bill Wilson, Town of Wenham.
Karen Summit.
Karen Summit, Treasurer, Town of Rowley, and also the Treasurer for the Veterans District.
Linda.
Linda Alexson, Ipswich Select Board.
Doug.
Doug Dawes, Georgetown Select.
Mike Flynn.
Mike Flynn, representative from Essex, Massachusetts.
Eileen, just so for the record.
I'm sorry, Eileen Page, recording secretary.
Okay, thank you. And I'm Bob Snow, and I'm the chairman of Eastern Essex Veterans. So with that, Bill, thank you so much for being with us. And again, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm a local North Shore guy, born, well, I won't say born, but raised in Beverly. Was an Ipswich Reserve officer for a while back in Chief Serpitsky days, and retired Manchester police officer. About 34 years in the military as well, between active duty and National Guard. And I started off home base. This is my 6th year at home base. So I don't know if we want to share a screen or not. I do have I don't want to bore you with a PowerPoint, but I can rush right through and give you the 10-minute spiel on home base.
Karen has to turn that over to you.
Yep, I think I just set it up.
Oh yeah, okay.
Got it?
Yeah. So
Awesome.
So can everyone see that?
Yep.
So I just want to thank Karen for inviting me tonight. Karen's been a great supporter of home base, and I see her out and about in many different events, especially pre-COVID. So it's good to see you, Karen. Thanks for having me tonight, everybody. So home base, for those that aren't familiar, we fall under the psychiatry department of Mass General Hospital. We're founded predominantly by Tom Warner of the Red Sox. He visited Walter Reed Hospital in 2007 after we won the World Series, and he was really impacted by that visit, and he wanted to do more for the veteran community and where the gaps of care were. So that's how we were founded. This is our 11th year. And we have, we're basically into 4 pillars. We have clinical care, wellness, education, and research. And what makes us a little different at Home Base is that all our services, we have many, many programs, even during COVID here, which I'll get into a little bit. But all services are provided at no cost to the veteran or family member. We serve the entire family. It's not the typical DoD definition of family. It's anyone that gives care or support to that veteran can seek care there. And the veteran doesn't have to be seeking care at Home Base for that family member to get care, which makes us unique. And you'll see combat veterans are part of all aspects of our team. Some programs, it all depends on your discharge status. If you have a dishonorable discharge, doesn't make you eligible for some benefits. At Home Base, we understand that you may have a dishonorable discharge because of your PTSD. So you're able to be seen at our program. Right now, all veteran and family members, we offer telehealth. Because of COVID and our space limitations in Charlestown, where we're currently located in the Navy Yard, we're providing telehealth all within Massachusetts. And we provide a multidisciplinary team, and we provide all evidence-based treatment and a holistic approach to care. So it's not just treating the PTSD. We have a nutrition team, we have a wellness team. At our facility in Charlestown, we have our gym as well for those local participants. So we're definitely a unique program in that regard. So another thing that makes us unique is that we have veterans throughout the whole team. Our executive director is Brigadier General Jack Hammond. Most notably in the news recently for setting up the Boston Hope Hospital, the convention center in Boston. Governor Baker tapped him to set up a field hospital within 10 days. So a lot of our home-based staff were deployed to Boston Hope Convention Center. So he's a great leader, a great visionary type person. But aside from that, we have doctors and clinicians that are veterans on our team as well. So I'm the director of Vet Outreach and Peer Support. So what is that, right? So we have a veteran outreach team that is comprised of combat veterans. So when a veteran calls Home Base for care, they will talk to a member of my team that have like experiences and know the lingo and know the military culture. So when you call, you feel comfortable or more comfortable when you do your initial intake. And we provide outreach to the community like tonight. That's what I'm doing, obviously, but also the rest of the team has different lines of efforts where they will, give a home-based one-on-one and get the word out about Home Base. And we provide peer support. We have a 2-week program. It's called the Intensive Clinical Program, where we fly veterans in from all over the world and get about a year's worth of therapy in 2 weeks. And so our veteran outreach team is embedded in that 2-week program. And we're not trained clinicians or anything like that. We're just another vet. If they want to talk to another vet, we have all branches of service. And we provide that peer support for veterans going through the program if they need someone to talk to or they need a little boot in the butt to get them going. That's what we're there for. And then, we collaborate with so many different military organizations. With, I attend regularly the North Shore Vet Collaborative. There's so many different other organizations out there that we collaborate with. So it's a little bit about Home Base. Anybody have any initial questions about Home Base? I didn't want to bore you with another PowerPoint, so I'm sort of running right through these. So, here are some statistics that probably most of you are aware of, that we have 20 veterans die by suicide each day, which is very sad. And then during this COVID area, I don't know if you guys seen reports, but from senior Army leaders, it's been up, suicide has been up 20 to 30% due to the isolation of COVID. So, and what we treat is what called the invisible wounds of war. So post-traumatic stress, TBI, anxiety, depression, military sexual trauma, all these invisible wounds. And it's estimated that 1 in 3 veterans deal with these invisible wounds. And approximately, 50 to 60% of veterans who are eligible for VA care look elsewhere for care. So we provide that gap, if you will. And then, the bottom statement here, we have state-of-the-art treatment programs that, at the end of the day, at the end of 2 weeks or the end of the programming, they live a more healthier, resilient life. And we've seen that firsthand in our 2-week program. At the end of 2 weeks, we have a graduation, and the doctors will say a few words to the patients to let them thank them for having the courage to attend our program. But then we allow the patients to say a few words, and that's where you really see the impact of a year's worth of therapy in 2 weeks. We've changed their lives, saved their lives, given them hope. And you hear this directly from the patients themselves. So it's pretty powerful. And then, so like a lot of our programs, we had to take a pivot as well during COVID, but we still offer all these clinical services. So our outpatient mental health care is telehealth right now. I mentioned the 2-week intensive clinical program. We're doing that in-house at the Charlestown Navy Yard. Like I said, we fly people in from all over the world. If you're a veteran in the Philippines or Japan or Germany, it's predominantly within the United States, but we fly you in at no cost, put you up in the Marriott right next door to us, and then you get a year's worth of therapy at 2 weeks. And so we're doing 2 cohorts at a time of six patients, and that's ongoing right now. And we work with TAPS, which is a Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. So we run 4 cohorts. It's predominantly spouses who have witnessed or came across their loved one that completed suicide. So it's a lot of complicated grief that they come and get treatment for. So we do 4 cohorts. And Raytheon just recently supported our last TAPS cohort, because it costs about $25,000 per veteran to go through our 2-week program. And then for our special operators, we have a comprehensive brain health treatment program where they get a full workup. Some of these guys don't even realize they have a TBI from all the training they've encountered over the years. So they get a full workup through Spalding and Mass General and some of the best docs in the world. So that's a very special program. We have a 4-day and 2-day program that's ongoing right now. We get a lot of Navy SEALs, Rangers, Green Beret, those type of special operators. And we pivoted to some of our wellness programs. We took our team, like I mentioned, we're a multidisciplinary team. Some of our nutrition folks, our strength and conditioning folks, our mental health folks, put together these little snippet videos, 5 to 10 minutes, can walk you through an imagery, yoga, cook a healthy meal. These are all on our website, homebase.org, Operation Health at Home. These are all free, for anyone to view. The next one, we want to stay connected with our veterans out in the community. So we created Slide into Home Base virtual coffee hours, which are every Thursday at 7. Anyone can join us for that. The third Thursday is for concentrated on families. Venture series. We've worked in the past with the Ipswich Y. We've I know Karen went to the Raleigh camp. We put on an adventure series there where we connect military families to free activities. We're able to give them a little home base 101, let them know about us, but also enjoy a free event for the day. So we've worked with Sugarbush, Cranmore, Wachusett, Duck Tour Boats, Museum of Science, Boston Harbor. Like we put on, 2 or 3 events a month. A lot of them are virtual. And again, you can find all this on our website. Then we have our Resilient Warrior and Resilient Family, which is a 6-week course. It's more of a mindfulness, how to deal with stress type course. Again, all put on free by a great family outreach team and some of our clinicians. Then our Warrior Health and Fitness program is still ongoing. It's mostly virtual. They try to do, they're starting to do some in-person social distance events, but this is a 6-month program where you come in and they take a holistic approach to your body, your nutrition, your health and wellness goals. And, typically we use the gym at our facility, but it's a little limited right now, but we do have that program as well. So another pillar is our education and training. We offer free online trainings to anyone that wants to take them on military culture, PTSD, TBI, you name it. We have it. We have a lot of first responders and nurses and clinical type people that take these courses. They could get some free credits as well for these online trainings. We do or have done live community education workshops for, in particularly like first responders and health professionals to help identify the signs of PTSD, especially at first responders. I had a former soldier that was going to complete suicide by, traveling at a high rate of speed and making it look like an accident. He actually got pulled over by a first responder who knew that he needed help and got him to the hospital, as opposed to arresting him, which would have been probably a lot more devastating for him. So we provide this training from our clinical team. And then we treat other clinicians, which I'll get into it a little bit, evidence-based treatment. Like I said, our treatment at home base are nothing but evidence-based. We won't do anything there that hasn't been researched and has evidence based against it. And then lastly, we received some funding from the state to have our suicide prevention campaign, our 20 to 0. As I mentioned, there's 20 veterans a day completing suicide. We'd like to get that to obviously 0. All of us would. And so some of our objectives here, expand the network of community mental health providers, because we know pre-COVID, a barrier to care is coming into Boston. So what we are doing as home base in MGH is training clinicians in the community, evidence-based treatments, and their willingness to take TRICARE and to see veterans. So on our website, it's you can see those clinicians that we've trained throughout the state. There's about 70 of them right now, and it's ongoing. And then they agree to TRICARE, see veterans, and then they're supervised during their treatments by our clinical staff after 6 months, and then they get the gold standard from home base. And then what we're doing is hosting a series of roundtables, which we've done already. We've done about 5 roundtables, and the North Shore one just got canceled with Congressman Moulton and others alike. But we take all stakeholders from the community and let them know about this campaign, and let them know if they come across a veteran in trouble, they can go and see the clinicians that are trained and get them into care. They don't necessarily have to come to home base. So that's home base in a nutshell. I could definitely talk about an hour. It's a great program. Very proud to work there. They definitely save lives every day, and just want to make you guys aware of it. It's right in your back door, and whenever you watch a baseball game on Nesson, where they do homebase.org on the bottom of the screen, and you probably heard of the Run to Home Base, where we have a 9K and a 5K walk and run, where the finish line is at home plate. So that's, a lot of people know it's because of the Run to Home Base, but they don't actually know what we do at home base. But there's a lot of great things going on there. Any questions?
Bill, this is Mike Flynn. First of all, thank you. Very interesting stuff. What is evidence-based treatment for someone who's, a layman? Is that something that's, you've had success with? Is that clinically, is it a drug therapy? Is it a talk therapy? Can you give a little more flavor on it, please?
Sure. So it's prolonged exposure, cognitive processing therapy. These therapies that have been long researched and proven to be effective for those with PTSD or these invisible wounds. So, we get, I can't tell you how many times we, these technology firms and stuff, or they want to do like brainwave treatment or, all these different things that we get contacted by, but we just won't accept any of the treatments unless they've been proven to work, is what evidence-based is.
I see. So thank you. Nothing experimental or that's, on the horizon, something that's had a real track record behind it. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill. Bill Wilson, one quick question. Is this a brick and mortar operation in Boston or nationally? It sounds like you have a pretty big staff. Sounds like you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, so great question. Yeah. So we are brick and mortar in Charlestown Navy Yard. We do have Southwest Florida. There's a high veteran population down there. We work with Florida Gulf Coast University. We have an office in there. And we just partnered with Lee Health down there, where they are actually have an outpatient clinic and seeing patients. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we'd love to open a bunch of home bases all over the country. But this 2-week program that we have allows us to fly people in from all over the world to get a year's worth of therapy in 2 weeks. So, but right now we're in predominantly Boston and Florida.
Okay, but if you're flying somebody in, would they go to Charlestown to get the therapies that you had outlined there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the staffing for that comes from outsourced in, or you get a right there resident? Sounds like
so we got a great business model. We got a great business model at home base where we probably have about 140, 150 employees, but not all of us are full time. Well, not all of them are full time.
Right.
We pay percentages of docs' time for when we need them, as opposed to paying full time.
And I hear the funding, some comes from the state, but what's the other sources of funding? I mean,
Yeah, so no, about 90% is philanthropy.
Really?
So that's what allows us, we don't have restrictions per se on our money
Okay.
that we use. So it allows us to do this type of care because insurance just doesn't pay for what we do.
Right.
When we talk about a holistic approach to care, it's insurance wouldn't cover the majority of what we do for our veterans.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for what you do. It's much needed.
So I would also like to thank you for being here. It seems Karen finds the most interesting speakers to come to our meetings, and I am always learning about new programs and opportunities out there for veterans, which is wonderful. I also have the question about funding, which you just answered, but are services donated too by, the doctors and the psychiatrists or others?
In what regard? Services?
Yeah, that they are providing to the veterans. So do you have volunteers as opposed to employees that provide services like that?
No, these are all either Benson Henry Institute, Mass General Hospital. A lot of our clinicians are professors at Harvard as well. That's some of the research piece that, I didn't really get into, but we do a lot of research at home base as well. But no, we do have a volunteer program. There's a lot of people who want to help us, but it's tough being, a mental health clinic and people volunteering. So we do have different opportunities like the Run to Home Base, our different fundraisers that we have throughout the year. But we have about 1,000 volunteers that in our system, but we don't use them for, treatments.
Now, is any of the care that veterans might receive or their families, is that coordinated at all with VA?
Yeah, so that's another great question. So we actually have a memorandum of understanding with the VA. We have a full-time VA employee in our clinic, Will Melendez, who is a licensed social worker, and we have a national ombudsman that helps our veterans get appointments quickly when they go back home if they want to receive aftercare, and also with their disabilities. So Will is a great asset and resource for us. So we work hand in hand with the VA when it comes to that, for those that want to.
Right. Okay. And I am very aware of the Run to Home Base. I get the emails every year, and every year I say, I'm going to do it. And I haven't done it yet, but I will get there. Thank you again. Thanks for being here.
No, thank you. Thank you for what you guys do and your support for veterans. We appreciate it. And, thanks, Karen, for having me, and we'll see you out and about.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, I got a question about traumatic brain injury. Are you seeing an uptick, especially with this war compared to other wars?
Yes, yeah, we are. We actually, well, to be honest with you, so the military is downsized the amount of military going overseas, but the ones that we see going over are our special operators, and that's where we're seeing an influx of TBI cases. And to be honest with you, if you know that community at all, it's all based on trust, and they trust the care that they're getting at home base, and word spreads like wildfire. So now that we're a trusted healthcare provider for them, we're seeing increase in numbers for sure.
Whereabouts in Charlestown in the Navy Yard are you located?
So right next to the Constitution. We're right in that parking lot between the Marriott and the Constitution. We can see the Constitution from our office.
I used to be in the Marine Barracks at my last duty station, so I was up on the 4th deck. I was a wonderful vision of Boston in the dry dock, and the Constitution and the skyline of Boston every morning. I never realized what a great place location that was until I see what people pay for condos over there now.
Yeah, now. But you raise a good point. So we're in like 5 or 6 different locations about 4 years ago. And, we were downtown Boston, like right outside the Garden, and all you hear was horns and sirens all day. So we moved over to Charlestown Navy Yard. It's right on the water. It's very peaceful and calming, not only for our patients, but for our staff too. So it's just like you said, it's a beautiful spot. And
it really is.
And it comes with free parking, so which is another big thing for Boston. So.
Well, Bill, anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to. Bill, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I really appreciate it. He was a willing participant from the moment I asked him, so I'm grateful for that. And like you said, I love seeing you when we're out doing outreach and stuff, and so he's been a great resource. Kathy and I, we've utilized home base, we've referred people, so we work hand in hand. We do a warm handoff, and it's a place that I trust to send the veterans that we work with. I have, I feel confident that anytime I call over there, that they're going to be well taken care of. and just a short little, one of the things, and this is just from even before I was a VSO, one of the things I love about home base is what he was saying about serving families. Because before I was a VSO, a friend of mine, a combat veteran who had PTSD, would not go seek treatment, but he was living at his mother's house, and he would get up and he would walk all night, and he would check windows, check doors and everything. And his mom didn't know how to deal with it, you know, and so her utilizing home base, you know, helped her out, you know, understand more of what's going on and just have that kind of support. So yeah, there's a lot of unique things about home base that, you know, are very beneficial, and they do fill in those gaps that are missing. So yeah, we're lucky. We're lucky in this area. We have a lot of good resources. So
Yeah. Well, thanks,
Bill-
Karen. Nice to meet you all.
One other
Thank you, Bill.
thing, Bill.
All right.
I used to, one of my duties when I was stationed in Marine Barracks, Boston, was to visit the different VA hospitals. This is 50 years ago. And I used to go in, and I would, especially if I went into an alcoholic ward, I'd go in and I'd see a guy who was, you know, had been on Guam, a guy had been on Iwo Jima, a guy had been, you know, and every one of them, there wasn't the outreach like there is today. So thank you so much for what you do. What a difference, you know, we're seeing with veteran outreach.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned too that we're all era veterans now. Just a few years ago, we opened up to everyone. So we've had some Vietnam vets come through our program as well. So it's good to see.
Well, thanks again. Thank you so
All right.
much for coming, and you're always welcome back if you got something to give us. We'll take
All right.
it.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
We'll be in touch, Karen. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Has everybody read the minutes for December for our meeting?
Yes. I move to approve.
I have one question on this before we approve.
Sure, Bill.
Okay, under the financials to date that they have under there, they use the term retained earnings. About 74,000 was closed out in retained earnings. I mean, we're not earning money in this thing here. Shouldn't that be putting that money into management reserves? So I'm just questioning the language that's used in this.
The language is what's used in QuickBooks.
Okay,
Which
but I don't
retained
know.
earnings, retained earnings is basically what we have from previous year's surpluses.
Yeah, but that's not us though. We don't earn anything. I mean, that 74,000 is a management reserve. I think, you know, unless I.
Right, but in QuickBooks, you call it what QuickBooks calls it.
It's a very typical accounting term, Bill. It's could be shareholder equity or retained earnings, but it is very, I know it is misleading, but it is very bread and butter accounting term.
Just don't think it applies. I mean, to me, it kind of sets me off here. We're not earning anything.
Well, basically, we assess people money and then we spend money. What's left over is what goes into retained earnings.
Yeah, it's underruns or overruns, right? So if you're underrun, it goes into a reserve program or whatever you want to call it, retained earnings. So I have exception to the language in this thing.
Yeah.
I think that's come up before, and I wonder, is in QuickBooks, is there, you know, can you create your own title for something? And
I mean, this is just a Word document here. I mean, I've just
No,
words and
no, it's not. It's a program. It's a QuickBooks program, and I don't believe you can replace retained earnings. It's a standard accounting.
I understand that. I understand that. But this piece of paper here, I think when you send it, it's just a PDF doc, right?
But it's a PDF doc of a QuickBooks report.
I got that.
Yeah.
Saying that why can't you edit the PDF doc to language that's more appropriate?
I mean, I think we've had this discussion multiple times and we all agree with what it is, and the limitations of the program are that it's retained earnings.
So I assume, right, that these accounts are audited every so often, and I just wonder if the auditors have ever raised the issue with what that's called.
It's a flag. It's a red flag.
Well, first of all, we don't have auditors. Because Karen, can you remind me why we can't get audited?
So the budget is so small, and the number of line items, it just wasn't robust enough. When I first came on, I had Powers and Sullivan I asked them for an audit, and they were gracious enough to take everything. And so he did a recommendation rather than an audit, because the way that our budget is, because Powers and Sullivan is, kind of the benchmark. A lot of municipalities use it, and their budgets are a lot more complex, where we have a simple line item budget. And so so that's how we kind of got to this point.
Right.
I don't know how anyone else on the board feels, but I would think every few years, the accounts and the budget or whatever should be audited, no matter how small it is.
I agree with the principle, but I think we have to, I sit on another small board, Linda, and sometimes the expense of that can be very displacing to other services. I would ask, I agree with the principle, but I would ask that we really get our hands around what the cost would be.
Exactly, because I'm sure we would have, if an audit costs $3,000, I'm sure we would have pushback from your towns.
But if you were doing it, say, every, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, as opposed to every year.
I mean, it's definitely something we can check into, but I mean, how much does your municipal audit cost? $20,000?
Yeah, I know. I understand all.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I would, it's just a thought, and I'd like to hear other opinions on it. I just assume that this was done every few years.
I think a 5-year audit would be a good idea. It's
Yeah.
like just to make sure everything is in order, period.
Yeah, I mean, I have no issues with it, but like I said, you guys are the ones that'll have to approve the expense.
And I'm trying to go back in my memory, and I remember an audit. I'm thinking it was like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, so it was when I first came on. Prior to me, they did not use an accounting software. It was all done by hand. And then when I came in as the director, that was one of the things I said. I plan on being here for a long time, so I want to make sure that the finances are in order. And at that point, I also looked at the bank. We had, it was about $76,000 in the bank. And so, like I said, I used to work, I've worked in municipalities before, and Powers and Sullivan is just one that, that I know, I think a lot of towns know. And so I called him, and, and I gave him everything that we had. It was, so he went through it, and that's when we came up with the $26,000. He suggested using 50 grand in retained earnings or reserves or free cash, or I'm not sure, whatever the term is. And then I took that 26,000 and we applied it to the next year's budget. And so that's just, so that happened when I first started, which was about 5 years ago. Yeah. So that's, and so that was another thing, was getting an accounting software where, I didn't want to be done by hand. And that's, and QuickBooks is a pretty standard accounting software program. And so that's how that happened.
So you would say that we're probably due for an audit. about this. So this year coming, how does the board feel about having an audit done this coming year? And how much would it cost?
Well, yeah, that's my question.
Well, I think we have to find that out. And I think we need to, I wasn't aware that this wasn't audited on a regular basis. I think for transparency purposes and, to be able to report back to our individual boards and feel comfortable about what we approve and what we see in these budget documents. I just think it's a good practice every X number of years to do this. Like you said, when it was done 5 years ago, they made some very good recommendations, and maybe there's more recommendations to be made at this point. But that's my opinion.
Well,
Sharon, do you remember when it was, what? So it was, you think it was 5 years ago that it was done, and it was Powers and Sullivan?
Correct.
Do you remember how much it was?
He did it for free.
Get it for free. Well,
I think we can't beat that price.
No,
I
it can't be that price.
So it was when I first started here, and like I said, I used to work, for the town of Saugus prior.
Mm-hmm.
So I know other municipalities. Do any of your municipalities use Powers and Sullivan?
Raleigh does.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was it.
Okay, all right. So everybody, I was-
Karen Summit, when do they come back to us again?
I'm like,
Summer?
this is Karen, and so anyways, he was like, yeah, no. And so I brought everything to him. He's like, oh, this is a really small budget. It's a really easy budget. And yeah, so he was like, don't worry about it. So he was very good. He was very
Veterans
good.
donation.
Yeah.
Well, I would just say the caveat is, I'd say three things. One, let's be careful with what the pricing is. And I would also suggest it's not immaterial. So if the pricing comes back at X, we should probably have that in our budget so that we can allocate it appropriately. And third, let's make sure, I think we allocate the budget appropriate to this potential audit. But also third, let's be careful with what we're asking. There's audits, there's different levels. There's audits, there's financial reviews, and there's different levels of cost. So I think we should, make sure we ask for what we want from the audit, the financial review, and then also decide, what's appropriate for this situation.
Karen Summit, when does Powers and Sullivan come back through for Raleigh?
Well, they were here in early February. So we're still in contact with them. I guess what my point is so I'm very familiar with what happens when they come in and audit. So what exactly are you looking for? Because, for example, when they come in, they'll say, okay, well, you have these expenses. I'd like to see, the warrant for this expense. I'd like to see a copy of the check. So basically, what they're doing is they're looking at your trail. And is that what the board is looking for? I mean, they're not really going to give you a lot of recommendations. They're going to do testing and say, yep, this is in order, this is in order, this is in order. So I guess before, Karen or I could, request something, what exactly is it you're looking for?
Good question.
Well, and Karen, that's what I was getting at. Are we looking for a financial review or a hard audit? And there's different levels of pricing. Are we looking, for the numbers to be reviewed and some best practices? Or are we looking to tick and tie every number over the past 5 years? Because
Right.
they're very, very different pricing levels for those things.
Exactly. I mean, they're not going to tell you, oh, you know what, you should be spending more money on this or more money on that. What they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, well, you have, assessments of this, let me see your bank statement that shows that everybody paid. So, those are the kind of things. Or, you spent $995 on office equipment. I want to see, 2 different expenditures. And, I need to see the bill, I need to see the warrant, and I need to see the check and the bank statement. And, I reconcile the bank statements every month, and this is what you get back into your financials. So I just want to make sure that you're very clear about, what you're looking for. Because it is a pretty small operation.
I mean, it's going to be, it's not like doing a town audit. This is a small district, a small entity financially.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
And this all started with the term retained earnings.
so maybe we put an inquiry out and just to see, run it by Powers and Sullivan. They must deal with small entities like us, and ask them what they would do, and see what they come back with. Does that sound good for the board, or does the board want more in detail?
No, I think it sounds good. I mean, it has to do with stewardship. Are we really doing the job of providing oversight for the budgets and the expenses and all that stuff?
Right.
So how do you validate that we, the board, are doing a good job controlling the funds and expenditures and all that stuff? What's the review that you need to validate that you can go back to your constituency or to your town and say, yeah, hey, we're doing a good job here. We're spending this. We're getting good value. So I'm not quite sure what it would be that would get us there, but that's what I would be looking for.
Well, I think what you have to think of is what is the function of the board? The board puts together the budget and
Correct.
approves the budget.
Right.
And then Karen is actually the one who's the steward of spending and managing the budget.
But we review it quarterly.
You're getting a review, but you don't, the board does not say, Karen, buy paper from, buy office supplies.
We get to ask questions, and we get to, dig in a little bit if we think something is interesting to us.
Yes, I realize that, but you're not the steward. You're the stewards. You hire Karen, you hire the VSO, and you approve the budget.
Yep.
And everything else kind of flows down through Karen.
But we once I get back to the thing that once a quarter you come out with these sheets here that we look through.
Correct.
Get to ask questions whether she's on budget, whether she's going to overspend or underspend, or is it some other big expense that cropped up? That's what we're supposed to be doing here.
Our job is oversight only. Can we hire Karen to do the job as the VSO and to spend the money appropriately?
Mm-hmm.
So again, we are the oversight to that. But when it comes to a financial audit, I don't think we don't need a town type of financial audit. So, I'm looking for something small and that will, a good bang for the buck. And zero, you can't get better than zero as last time.
I was just thinking, I'm like, you guys don't go run around talking about how Jim hooked us up, because I don't want to get him in trouble. So, let's keep that on the DL here.
Sure. Well, anyways,
I think the concept is like a financial review, not a hard audit, where test a little bit of testing and a little bit of oversight. Are there some best practices that can be administered? It is a small entity. And, Karen Summit, you tick and tie things pretty thoroughly every quarter. So, I guess that's the flavor I'm sensing would be most helpful.
Yep.
And economical.
And I don't know what that's called, that kind of review. So I think you should probably put it back to Karen Summit. And Karen, can you dig into that and find out with an entity our size, what they would do?
I mean, I could send Jim an email. He's usually pretty good about answering me.
That sound good to the board?
Yes, it does.
Yep.
Okay. All right, why don't we put this off until next meeting that we have, and we'll have to look up and see when the next meeting will be. But right now, let's keep it open. All right, does that sound good to everybody?
It does.
Yes, sir.
All right,
I'm good with it.
all right. Everybody's unanimous. There's no naysayers here. Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, did we vote on the minutes? We kind
No.
of got straight on.
Okay, wait a minute. Linda, you had a motion?
I moved to approve
And
minutes.
who had the second?
I don't know that there was
I'll
one.
second. I'll second.
Second. Okay, with a roll call vote?
Dawes, aye.
Linda Alexon, yes.
Mike Doyle, yes.
Bob Snow, yes. Mike, did you hear the, this about the minutes?
I did. Mike Flynn, yes.
Who's left?
Yeah, Bill Wilson. I'll approve it without, I'll retract my changes on QuickBook if that's what we're running with. That was 20 minutes ago that we brought this up.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
If I'm going to spend 20 minutes on this thing here, it's not worth fighting about here on
Okay.
QuickBook
Oh.
language.
The minutes, motion for the minutes passes. Okay. All right, moving on to financials, where we are today. Karen, Summit?
Okay. I guess the first thing I'll talk about is the budget versus actuals. Does everyone have that?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so it looks like everything is running pretty much on budget. Karen, are there any things I noticed that, postage is getting down there? Is that something that you have more mailings, or was that something that was kind of front loaded? Is that something that you see as an issue?
I think that it's definitely going to be close. I think that, Kathy, do you want to chime in?
Well, postage basically due to COVID, because
Right.
people, for one thing, the Chapter 115 veterans aren't coming into the office to pick up their checks. So the postage got added because of the mailing of the checks on a monthly basis. So I think that pretty much, chipped into that.
I mean, that being said, I mean, we have a huge balance in legal and professional fees. So if there was any overage with that, I don't think it would be an issue with the overall budget. The only other one I see that may be an issue is the telephone and website. And I know when we did our budgeting last year, we thought that the district would be able to move to the Ipswich phone system on July 1st, but there was a month lag in that. So remind me, what is that, about $50 a month that we charge to that line?
Yes, correct. Now that we're on that system, it's about $50 a month.
Right. So that may go over a little bit too, but as I said, there's spaces in some of the other lines. Does anyone have any questions about the budget versus actuals?
Just one question. The telephone, is that a new cell phone that we had there? Wasn't budgeted? Is that what that is? $263?
So before, our landline was, we had our own Verizon account for the landline, and that we were paying $260-ish a month. But we gave that up and went over to Ipswich and got a line with the Ipswich town hall. And so now we're only paying, we're actually not paying for the landline. The $50 a month is for the cell phone.
So this 263 was a 1 month charge? Is that what you're saying, that we're no longer paying for?
A long roundabout way. Yes, that is what it is.
And travel's way down too. It looks like that's going to be a significant underrun. Travel.
Right. Yep.
And Karen, are you projecting an underrun for at the end of the year here?
Yeah.
You know,
Karen Summit, either one can speak to that.
Well, it's difficult because, we still have 5 months left in the year.
Correct.
So it's really hard to say. I know we did tighten the budget quite a bit when we did the budgeting last year because of Hamilton leaving. So I would assume that we will probably, have some surplus, but probably, not as much as we have in previous years. I think we had about $12,000 last year.
Okay. And if we overrun by chance, then that comes out of the, what I call management reserve or earnings, the 74,000, if that occurs.
Well, if we went over the budget, that would require, a board vote to do that.
Yeah, to allocate additional funds that we have.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it would come out of that. And also keep in mind that this budget is actually assuming that we're going to use $3,500 out of those earnings.
Okay, that was to reduce it at the start of the year. Is that right?
Correct. When Hamilton left and we had to redo the budget, it increased. Karen wanted to keep the assessments level. Mm-hmm. So the board voted to use about $3,500 out of those earnings, retained earnings, to fund this year's budget.
Right. You went from 239K down to 236 or something like that, which is the budget we spread out through the year.
Right.
Okay. I think that's all the top level questions I have.
Anything else on the budget?
Just one quick question. Sure. There's a telephone line item, and then there's telephone and website expenses. What's the difference there with the telephone particularly? And the website, what is the annual cost for the website?
Karen, do you know that off the top of your head?
Yep. So the annual cost for the website. So about 3 years ago, I upgraded the website to Civics Plus, and they revamped the website for $3,000. So that's another thing. Once we start talking about next year's budget and stuff like that, and so I did it that $3,000 over 3 years, and so there's $1,000 for the website, and then website hosting is like $9.95, and then the monthly telephone. So that $263 was the leftover month for the landline when we used to have Verizon.
What'll happen is next year that'll all be one line.
Okay. All right.
All right. I have one last question. There's no budget against the salary administrative assistant. Is that in the past, or what?
So what happened there was, because of the way that the payrolls fell at the end of the fiscal year, that actually is from June of last year. But because of the way the payrolls fell, there was no way to break that out and put it back into last year.
Right. Okay, that's fine. I'm good with that.
So that's a non-recurring item too. It's a timing thing.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Okay, so moving on to the profit and loss. This is pretty straightforward. Are there any particular questions about, what's in a line, or why are we spending anything? We start with our annual assessments, which we collected from all the towns.
Just a quick question, semantics, profit and loss. What is it? I see a line of numbers here. Let me see, these are expenses to date or budget remaining?
It's income less expenses. Okay. Nothing to do with budget, actual cash in, cash out.
Okay, so this is budget remaining.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on the P&L? Moving to the balance sheet. As of right now, we've got 161,000 in the bank, 161,856.79, and basically what we want to look at here is that retained earnings number, the 74,641.70 near the bottom. Everyone see that?
Yep.
So that basically, we've already spent $3,500 of that in this budget.
Mm-hmm.
the recommendation is that we keep a balance of 50,000. So what's left, roughly, 20,000 is a matter to be discussed about how you would like to use that in this year's budget, next year's budget, some of both. And that will come about later in the discussion.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
Yes, thank you. Under restricted donations, other, $456.79. Tell us about those restrictions and what those donations are. I mean, are they just for town or?
So what those are general donations that have come in. Why they're in a restricted means that they survive the fiscal year. If we had donations as income, what would happen is at the end of the fiscal year, those would get swept into your retained earnings. By putting them in a restricted line, that means that they'll stay there until they're spent.
Okay, all right. And they're not, whatever they are, they're not earmarked for a particular town.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Is that it?
Well,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I do, because
No, go ahead.
there's one line that says restricted donations, Georgetown. So Karen, I thought that we had utilized those funds.
Correct. That has a zero balance.
I'm sorry, that has,
It has a zero balance. If you look at it,
let me get a ruler here. Oh, I'm sorry, my eyeballs were one line down.
The wandering eyeball.
Yes, yeah, okay, never mind. I received my question.
Doug, that happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Karen? Or Karen? With that, let's move on. Okay. We'll go to Chairman's report. I'm just going to make this kind of brief. I went over to the VA this week because I have been thinking about this a long time, and I got accepted into the VA because I was stationed at Camp Lejeune, and they have a severe water problem down there. So I went over and I applied, and I was taken into the VA system. So yesterday I went over, I got my COVID shot, but I haven't been up to Bedford in 50 years. And I walked in, I never said who I was or anything else except for my name. And I could not, I've heard all the horror stories about the VA over the years, and I can't say enough of how I was treated, when I went in there, and the whole process, and I went up to eligibility and all that. And I was treated with so much respect, and I didn't say again who I was, what I represented outside of, and I just can't say enough of the treatment I received from the people who worked there at the VA. Just
I go over there. I go over there all the time, and you're absolutely right. And
I get it. It took my breath away. And the last time I was there was 50 years ago. And as I was walking down the corridors, I was having all these little flashbacks of being over there with officers and going and visiting the different patients in the different wards. And, it brought back some, funny memories and some sad memories. But again, I went for the COVID shot yesterday, and they were so organized. It really is a military organization when you're over there. Just the way they had everything lined up. And the volunteers, I can't say enough about the volunteers. Just top notch. So, and again, I bumped into somebody outside of Market Basket yesterday, and I asked them, how they were doing and everything else, and they told me they had thought about getting into the VA program. So I worked with them yesterday, and he was going to send some paperwork over to you, Karen. later on and see, because he was in Vietnam and he was exposed to Agent Orange. So he's in those years. So anyways, that's my report. Good things about the VA.
Yeah, I would say this, even though it's a pain in the neck to get to Jamaica Plain, not as much with COVID because the traffic isn't as bad. But other than that, the folks at JP are top notch too. And the doctors that I see over there come from all the different hospitals in Boston. They volunteer their time. Well, I don't know if they volunteer. I'm sure they volunteer their time to coming over 1 day, 2 days a week. And they're all very professional. You get really good care. We're lucky that we're in Boston. It's noted, Massachusetts is noted to be one of the top veterans hospitals in the country.
We're very lucky because we have 3 of them here, you know,
Yes.
in just the metropolitan area. So again, anybody else want to say anything good about the VA? You've been in for.
I do want to remind everybody that the VA clinic in Haverhill moved to 209 Summer Street, and they're hoping to have enough space there to offer more services. So I'm hoping that maybe, you know, some of the ones I go down to Bedford for, I might be able to go to Haverhill for, because like the podiatrist, I was going to start to see the podiatrist in Lynn, and then he got sick and retired, so that stopped, and I'm back down to Bedford. So I'm just hoping, but it is 209 Summer Street.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep.
Yeah, I just concur with what you guys have said there, you know, and just not to belabor this much longer, but I've got both my shots there, COVID shots. I'm all done. So they're taking care of us.
Yes. And again, if anybody's out there listening to us in one of the towns and they're not sure about getting into the VA system, you know, call Karen and ask her about the form. It's very easy to fill out. Here it is here, and I filled it all out in an hour.
Right, and get your Health eVet website.
Yes.
So you can access all your records, you can order your prescriptions, you can send secure messages to the different departments and doctors that you see, and they're very responsive. It's such a great website. It's unbelievable how good it is.
And you know, if you're a Gulf War vet, I mean, there's a place down here. Did you serve in Southwest Asia during the Gulf War between August 2nd, 1990 and November 11th, 1998? And those fellows were exposed to all kinds of depleted uranium rounds and everything else. So all those veterans, you know, in different small little conflicts, big things, and you know, Vietnam is between 1962 and 1975. So I believe it enough. So Karen, ready for the director's report.
Okay. All right. I'm going to just share my screen and just go through a few things. Let's see. All right. So you guys can see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we are continuing with our DVS, the Department of Veteran Services, the state. So we're continuing with our weekly calls, which we receive an update from the Benefits Director, Secretary, Veteran Services, Cheryl Poppy. Madam Secretary gives us her report, and we also hear from the area presidents. The North Shore Collaborative, we've been discussing starting that up again and what that might look like, and also starting to discuss of different topics that we might have to present. The North Shore Coalition, that we spoke about veteran unemployment rates, and the veterans representative for Mass Hire is the one that coordinates that. We had a VA briefing with the regional director, And at that briefing, it was regarding service-connected disability claims, VA federal claims. And one of the things that was a big topic of discussion was the outsourcing of VA compensation exams, which has been a huge problem with the VA, which, you know, VSOs are seeing. Now that the VA is outsourcing a lot of these treatment exams, people are having to travel further distance to get to one of these contracted sites. They've been sending people to New York, Rhode Island, even for hearing, where people used to go to Bedford, now they have to go to Southborough if they're a new VA claim. And so this is something that we discussed with the regional director, and it's also something that we told and expressed our concerns to Congressman Moulton. I emailed everyone. Moulton was listening when we were talking and advocating for our veterans. And he and the rest of the Mass delegation wrote a letter to the new Secretary of the VA, and also a separate letter to President Biden. We gave examples to Congressman Moulton, and he used those examples to further, you know, so we all got together with our area presidents. And so when we had examples of, you know, outrageous, you know, situations where, you know, you live in Newbury and you're getting sent to Southborough for a hearing test, or if you need to go, you know. And one of the things too was that they were sending people across borders. Well, with COVID, we were told that we can't leave the state. You're not allowed to go to New York, you know, and all these things, and you have to quarantine. And so what they were doing wasn't, you know, in line with what they say their mission is, with the Mission Act, where you can receive services. You're supposed to be able to receive services that are reasonably, you know, to accommodate. So, you know, at your leisure, if you haven't already, I did forward you those two letters that were sent from the Mass delegation. So it's, I don't know, it's good that at least we got what we, you know, we got our voice out there. So we'll see what happens, but at least they know what it's like, you know, kind of boots on the ground, what we're seeing in the field. So military discharge upgrade. So there was a lawyer and talking about appealing to DOD on whether, you know, say somebody got a other than honorable discharge, but, you know, maybe like what Phil Davidson was saying, how, you know, maybe you have PTSD or TBI, and, you know, you had a reason why, you know, that could be a reason contributing to why you would get less than an honorable discharge. That's something that we can help people, you know, appeal to the Army review boards and stuff. So a lawyer was helping out with that, and also just being a resource if we came across that situation. The Merrimack Valley Collaborative, we met, and the speaker was Christine Paulzak. She is the Services to Armed Forces Regional Director from the Red Cross. So she spoke to what the Red Cross does in regards to service members and those also serving overseas and relationships with their families. The statewide, so the VSO and VA briefing. So as we were talking about the vaccines, a lot of this briefing had to do with how many vaccines, where the vaccines are. What we learned is there's a huge discrepancy. We're all praising the VA up here in the Boston, the Eastern Mass area. Western Mass is not receiving that same consideration. They're not receiving the same attention. and they're not getting the vaccines. They are, I want to say, furious, but there is a lot of there's just the discrepancy is really astonishing. They are, where we're servicing people, if you're over 50 years old, you can get a vaccine if you're from this area. Over in Western Mass, they still haven't done, people who are 75 and older. So there's a huge concern. So with that VSO and VA statewide briefing, they were able to, talk to those concerns and to let them know what's going on. Again, the VSOs were, in the field, and we're the ones that need to advocate for our veterans. And that's why they, and just for the Western Mass to know what's going on in the East, of course, I would have no idea that, things were so bad out West, unless we all got together and spoke about it. So we had our winter training. Usually, we all get together. So the VSO has a conference, and we did the winter training. We did that all through Zoom. So, and that was good, very informative. We had another briefing with Secretary Poppy. So we have two things going on, and I apologize for taking up so much time. So a student from Triton High School lives in Raleigh. He contacted the office. He says that he wanted to do a drive, a sock drive, and whatever else we would think it would be appropriate for homeless veterans. And so I contacted the Veterans Northeast Outreach Center, the outreach coordinator, V, and so I'm working as a liaison between the student and the outreach center. So he has gone to the Board of Selectmen in Raleigh and asked if he could put some bins up so that way he can do collections of socks, toiletries, non-perishable foods, and stuff like that. And so that's something that he's working on. And I'm gonna connect with him after the drive is over and to do that warm handoff with the outreach center. So it's nice to have, so I wrote a letter of support for him addressed to the town administrator and Board of Selectmen for Raleigh. I was also contacted by a student at Gordon College. They are interested in giving back to service members or veterans. They basically contacted me and asked me for any guidance. They're like, we want to help. What can we do? Can you point us in the right direction? So again, I reached out and to Dick Moody, who's in charge of Operation Troop Support. And Operation Troop Support does care packages to deployed troops. And so a lot of times people, if people contact the office and they say they want to help, like, what do? I always try to keep it local with organizations that I'm very familiar with. So that way I know, their reputation and, where the funds are going to or where the items are going to. And I also, I like to spread it around, so because these two chances came up just recently, I'm like, okay, so we can do homeless vets and deployed troops. So I gave them a list. So for Gordon College, I gave them a list of things to collect that would be, we're not able to do the care package, like packing party, because of COVID, but we are able to collect the items, and then I'll do a warm handoff with Operation Troop Support. And so that they can receive those items to put into the care packages to send overseas. And so the GWA bridge dedication, I should have wrote it out. GWA is short for Global War on Terror. Bridge dedication. So Rich Barbado, who you guys met at the last meeting, he's, as you know, he's an Iraq combat vet. He contacted the office and he said that, he was interested in doing a bridge dedication to War on Terror veterans, service members, Gold Star families. And so we're working with him to get this accomplished. We already spoke with Rep. Hill and Senator Tarr, and they're doing the legislation side and putting it through. So that way, with DOT and the state legislative, so that way they can get that, get the approval for that. And then down the line, we're going to be doing a ceremony, but that's going to happen down the line after COVID, and things get a little bit back to normal, hopefully sooner. But we're going to put that off for a little while and make sure that it can be done correctly. We all agree, and I always say I'd rather do something right rather than something fast. So yeah, I threw a lot at you, but I hope you.
Just to clarify, this is the High Street Bridge in Ipswich.
That's correct.
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Chair, if I
Thank you,
might
Karen.
ask a couple of questions for Karen.
Sure, Doug.
Karen, I've gotten at least 3 telephone calls in the last 2 weeks thinking that the office is no longer, and it's all because they don't have the new telephone number. Is there somehow, other than that newsletter on the website and all, that we can, I've announced it in Georgetown with the veterans and all, but can you think of any other way that we can get the word out about that?
Yeah, I know. So that was my biggest disappointment when we changed phone lines, and the telephone company would only let us do that announcing of the new number for such a short period of time. So that's super disappointing. But yeah, so, and what I did is I also contacted Colleen. I mean, I know there's more veterans than there are, just veterans who are involved with the COA. But, I don't know, I could contact Town Hall and maybe see if they could do it like on social media, if they have their own, or
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. We can probably, well, for Georgetown anyhow, use the digital board that's at Town Hall, but
yeah,
things like that for announcements. But I was just, because 2 of the three calls were veterans that I didn't even know were veterans. I'd never met them before.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's
Aaron,
just,
could we-
and I've made an announcement, from selectmen's meetings and all, but I don't know, somehow it's not getting out there.
Could we get I'm just spitballing here, Karen. Could we get the old number and maybe use that as the cell phone number as a backup? No? They don't let that fungibility, at least keep it in the family? No?
Yeah, I know. And everything, we begged. We're like, please.
Eileen is asking what the telephone number is.
Oh, so the new
Minutes.
number is 978-356-6699.
Thanks, Karen.
And thank you for putting it in the chat. So yeah, and the other thing too is, besides just the town social media, a lot of towns have different organizations that are popular. Like if there's like a historical society, or if, different town boards or, things like that would also, be a good place to, to see if we can post it, or have them sent out, post it on their on their Facebook or whatever social media they use.
I think tomorrow what I'll do is I'll check our website in Raleigh and see how it's posted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe after the meeting, I'll go on and take a look. I think we have a bridge. I don't know. We'll see.
I also changed it out on the Google account. I kind of took over. I didn't know I could, but I did. So I'm the ownership of it, and I changed it out there because a lot of people were Googling, and I'm like, well, it's possible. So I was able to change it out there, which is huge.
Yeah.
That's even bigger.
Yeah, it is.
So Karen, I might suggest too that, I know Ipswich has their own little local newspaper that actually gets mailed to every home in Ipswich. And I think maybe Raleigh or Georgetown has a local newspaper too. It might be a good idea to reach out to those papers and put an ad in there. They might even do it for free, where it's a veterans organization.
Yeah.
But, a lot of senior citizens don't go on the internet. So, if they get it in their mailbox or read it at the paper, they might make a note of it.
Mhm.
Thanks, Linda. Okay, we have one more thing to do on the agenda. Discuss and vote on the budget. So Karen Summit or Karen Tyler?
Karen Tyler.
I'm like, wait a second, if I have the choice, I pick.
I say Karen Tyler.
Where the heck did that paper go? Karen, do you have the final number of the population of Georgetown?
I do. So you guys want to go over the line item first, or do you want to go over the assessment?
Line item, I think would be.
Line items first.
Line item, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there's not too much. I did the best I could, keeping it as tight as I can. So we have the accounting software. I kept that the same. Last year it was a little bit less because I was able to negotiate a lower price. I'm always going to try to do it, but if I'm unable to do it, it's roughly about $775. Dues and subscriptions, I kept that the same. Education. So this year, when we were looking at Hamilton leaving, we really kept it tight. But I don't know. They're still talking about possibly having the conference, but I don't think that we're going to be doing anything in person. But hopefully next year we'll be able to do something in person. And that's an offsite, if we do it in person. And so the conference is multiple days. We're going to take a look at the agenda. There might be, depending on the agenda, that both me and Kathy might be there at the same time. But I also spoke with the Ipswich Town Hall. If both Kathy and I are out of the office, the senior work-off program, they are allowed to cover the phones, and then we'll be available by cell phone. But that's down the pike. I don't even know when we're going to be able to meet in person again. Let's see, what else? So yeah, the insurance, this year our insurance went up $50, so I just put it in for next year, the $650. The workers' comp, I kept the same. Legal and professional fees, in trying to keep a tight budget, I did reduce it a little bit. We're always hoping that we're not going to need any legal services, but we still have $1,600 if something was to come up. And then for Medicare, it's just Medicare guidelines, just it is what it is kind of thing. Keeping the network technology the same, office equipment, all these are just staying the same. Office expenses, $650, office supplies, $1,700. Payroll processing is about $1,000. And the postage, it's going up a little bit, so I just increased it by $100. The rent, Ipswich, agrees to continue the reduced rate of the $5,040. So for the telephone and website expense, that's decreased. Like I was mentioning before, we had an upgrade to the website, and to do that, it was $3,000. So I spread it out over 3 years. And so 2022 is going to be the first year, it's all going to be paid off. So now we're just doing the hosting, which is like $1,100, and then our telephones, our landline is on Ipswich, so we no longer have to pay for that. We only pay for the cell phone, which is about $50 a week, a month. Travel, hopefully we'll be able to, get out again. And I mean, I reduced it a little bit, just in hopes that we're going to be able to do outreach and get into the world again. So the insurance for the retirees, there usually isn't much of a increase because it's the MedX program and life insurance and stuff, and so it's an estimate. It's not really a huge increase, but we'll end up seeing, but it's an estimate for right now. The health insurance, I have mine through Newbury, and Kathy has hers through Ipswich. And again, at this point, Maya hasn't returned with hard numbers yet. I was asking what their towns were doing. So that's a 7% increase. They're obviously hoping that it's going to be less than that. But until we have hard numbers, I just went off of what they're doing for placeholders in their budget. So my salary, there's an increase per the contract. And for the assistant to the director, 2% increase. The temporary secretary. So last year was under budgeted because there's going to be meetings that come up, more than the just for a year. And so that gives us the opportunity that if we are having, if we have another meeting or, something does come up, that we have that available. So at the end of the day, the total expenses on $239,734.83, which is a total increase of $3,538. Which is a decrease from last year.
Question, Karen? Oh, Doug?
Yeah, I just, under the salary for a temporary secretary, we don't have a temporary secretary.
That's the minutes taker.
Oh, the minute taker, okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
No, I guess not. Well, so what was the final count that you have for Georgetown's population?
Okay, so now I'll go over to the, let me pull up. I apologize. All right. Mhm. Okay. All right, so this is the town assessment. It has the population, which I receive from so every year I contact the town clerks in each of the town to ask them, what their population is. So that's how I get that that number. And so here you have the, the total budget, the 239, 734 number. And, so you get your percentage based on what the population is. And that's how you get your town assessment.
Hey, Karen, Bill Wilson here. Hey, I asked the town clerk to break out the population by residents and by Gordon College, which are really non-residents, but they're accumulated. Did she send that to you?
Yes.
Okay. So the bottom line for the residents is 4,438 in not 5,502. So, and Bob, you and I have had this discussion before, how we're being assessed here. I mean that in the town of Wenham, there's 5,502 people that live there.
Right.
There, of that, 1,064 are students, don't pay any taxes, just go to school and then go home. And then there's the resident, there's 4,438. So what I'm asking the board is to assess us at that value, that number, 4,438, rather than the larger number, which includes the Gordon residents.
That's the exact number as West Newbury, 4438.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. I just noticed that too. Yeah.
Now, I talked to Karen about this, and I was asking about other cities and towns that have colleges in them,
Mhm.
and how they assess a college or a university. And then Karen, we were having a discussion, brought up that there in the student population that there may be veterans within the student population. So other towns, Karen, you talked to, right? They assess the university part of the population.
Right. So in Massachusetts, it's state law that we have a veteran service officer for every city and town. And so if we didn't count the students at Gordon College, that would basically mean that they wouldn't be entitled to a VSO. And so when they do the assessments, it's based on the town census. So they did something in whether it was register to vote or however it is that that makes Wenham aware of their presence. And
Right.
so,
They all live at 255 Grapevine Road.
yeah.
So that's when they sign up to vote, or whatever it is. That's where they come in
Yeah.
at.
But
Yeah.
wouldn't you have to be a resident, a true resident to be on the census? I'm confused about where these numbers come from then if they don't come from the census.
I believe they do. It's from the town clerk, that Karen received all this from. And I
Yep.
just asked her to break it out into those two categories there. So it's, I believe it's the census, obviously, that's what everybody else is going to. But there are two numbers that you can break out on those, residents and then people on 255 Grapevine Road. They're also residents, but they live at Gordon College.
And if they sign up to vote in Wenham,
Right. Yeah.
then they're basically a resident of Wenham.
But wouldn't I don't know, wouldn't their permanent address be wherever they permanently live? I mean, a college is a college, right? It's not their
But
permanent
if
residence.
if they vote in town, okay, um, I would say their residence is the college, but they're also a resident of the town if they're legally voting in that town.
Right. So one of the places that I called, so there's a district that is like, it's Weston, Wellesley, Wayland. Anyways, so it's 4 towns, and Regis College is in Wellesley. And, because and they also do it, by town clerk, by population, because there's still people, veterans, and so they need a VSO. And they also, if, like, for instance, if there was a homeless shelter in, like Haverhill has homeless shelters, the population, somebody who's homeless would still go to Haverhill to receive services. And so it's just where the person is located, is where you would receive, the services from the VSO.
I think what Karen was really driving at is if we cut off Gordon College, okay, not take that population, then they're not going to be. If there is somebody in the military and they're looking for a VSO, they're not going to be represented by the district. Do you
Right.
follow me, Bill?
Yeah, I do. And I don't think there's anybody that goes to Gordon College that is a veteran. I mean, I can't substantiate that, but that's my understanding. I'd have to investigate that.
But if somebody came in this year or came in the future and we didn't count them, then they wouldn't have representation.
They wouldn't have representation, that's correct.
Okay, so I think that's where we're coming from on that.
Bob, could I mention something?
Sure.
I also think that, basically this is a formula used to split the budget. I
Yeah.
think that, you're looking, the formula is the number of residents divided by the total. I think if you start carving out little niche populations, you're just going down a bad path for the future, because, someone else will want to cut something else out. I think you have to take it for what it is. It's the population as given by the town clerks, right?
Well, also what Karen brought up about what the state, how the state looks at this also. So I just don't want in the future, if somebody comes in as a veteran to be, and wants services from the VSO. We don't know that. That's.
I have helped. I have had people from Gordon College that came in for services. And then, just like the situation that we had, those Gordon College students that wanted to help or to get involved. And so they contacted my office as the VSO, and they knew of me because of because Gordon College is in Wenham and Wenham is in the district. And so they see me as, not me, but sees the office, the district, as where they belong, type of thing.
So you're saying that someone from Gordon, the veteran, came for you for assistance? Or are you saying that Gordon College is interested in helping you do some of the things that you do?
Both. So I have had somebody from Gordon College helped with a claim. Another person that was referred by the VA person had some PTSD and was contacting the office quite a bit and needed some assistance. So they do know that, that there is help available, and they look at, Wenham as, as being part of the district and stuff. So when somebody gets out of the service and, qualifies for like a welcome home bonus, or if they were like National Guard does a good job, when they are getting out of the National Guard or something like that, they would tell the person, okay, you would go to, where you live, you go to the VSO. And so somebody that was receiving that information would think that they would receive assistance from the VSO who covers.
All right, so I'm not going to belabor this. If you can just provide me with one name of a Gordon College that's a veteran, I'll withdraw this.
I believe that's illegal.
I don't think we can do that.
That's illegal. That's discrimination. You can't do that.
I don't understand where you're coming from.
That's protected information.
Okay, I withdraw that question then.
Is that because it's HIPAA?
Well, somebody's asking for assistance. I would
Yeah,
I take that as a confidential request. And, somebody coming to us that has PTSD, I'm not going to share that information.
Yeah. Isn't there a large graduate population there? I'm not familiar with the college, but I've run into over the years, there's a good portion of graduate students there, which I would think there would be more chances of being veterans in the graduate population than the undergrad. But again, I'm just sort of asking the question. It's not just an undergraduate population there, it's a graduate population as well. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
So I think it's incumbent upon me to prove my point here, and I will go back and study this a little bit further. So I'll withdraw that right now.
Okay, Bill. Anything else on the?
Yes, I have a question. And maybe Bill would be the one to answer it. When Wenham left, when Hamilton moved to Gloucester, that made Wenham a non-contiguous town in the district. And it was my understanding that to stay in the district, Wenham needed dispensation from the legislature. Is that right, Bill?
I've heard that same story, and I haven't validated it. I have no information to either dispute that or support that.
Karen, do you know whether that is a requirement? So that because it's non-contiguous, so that Wenham can stay in the district?
Yes, so they can stay in the district. All is permission. And so because Wenham's been in the district for so long, to be be consistent with services, the state had no problem with that.
Who's they?
Is that the state, Karen?
Is that the legislature or the Secretary for Veteran Services?
That's the secretary. I would
Okay.
get a new one from the current secretary.
Let me take that question one step further. Was that why Hamilton was pushing to bring Essex along so they could be contiguous to Gloucester? In other words, connect the dot to Gloucester?
I'm not sure.
I'm not familiar with this regulation, but it does throw some light on some things.
We can talk about that.
Oh, no, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's yeah. So yeah, it isn't a problem with the state. All right.
So,
Is there any? So
Anything else?
so we would actually be seeing a decrease roughly for Georgetown anyhow. Oh, that's right. I want to get back to Georgetown because I know that when I saw the email string that there was a question about last year's number and then it was down 242. But she said she'd get back to you after she got done with the census. Has the town clerk finish with the census and get back to you?
Well, she contacted me twice. So when I first contacted her, she gave me the number, and then I contacted her again and asked her just to double check. And then she contacted me confirming that was the number. And she said,
Okay,
the census, people move in and out, or if they're just registering, or that there's different reasons for the change in number. But she said she confirmed, and that's the number.
okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So, I mean, I think this is it. Does anybody have any questions? So it's the 5-year comparison, kind of highlighted the different, areas where, things looked a little bit different in how we got to the numbers. But I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And just to make sure that we remember down the line, I made sure that we continue, documenting how we got to where we are.
So do you know the number of veterans in the district?
Yep, so the number of veterans in the district is 49,041.
Oh, that was on a sheet. How come I didn't see that? All right, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's 49,000. Do you have that by town?
Yep, so, and then,
Provide that to us all?
yep, so on the first page. Do you see on the FY22 assessment and budget?
So as I'm looking at it per population, it's about $4.91 per person.
Thank you, Bob, that's what I was looking for.
Okay, for the 7 towns. So we were, if I remember last year, we were what, $4.30? Do you remember, Doug?
Yeah, it was $4 and something, like 80 something cents, maybe.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay,
But I
so
don't remember the exact number. I just know it was below $5.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, Karen, did you just answer the question, how many veterans were in these towns, or how many total people, the total population in those towns?
I asked for the number of veterans.
And I'm sorry, I might have not heard that. What was the number of veterans of the 49,000?
Oh, no, I was given the total population.
Okay. Karen, do you know how many veterans are currently in the town, out of curiosity?
I can get that from the town clerks.
Again, I'm asking out of curiosity. Don't make a special effort. I was just curious.
Yeah, that's okay.
We did it up here in Raleigh. It was something like 300 veterans in Raleigh.
300 in Raleigh, Bob? Okay.
Yeah, that's roughly the number I remember.
All right,
Well,
I think we have like 400 and something in Georgetown.
Yeah.
So I'm here, that's about 5% in both of your towns, roughly. Okay.
Probably a little bit better than national average too.
I would agree.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's
it.
yep. And so then the last page, just difference in expense and difference in population.
Okay. So these numbers have to get over to each one of our administrators, okay, so they can do the budget in the town.
Right.
So it's important that we.
I'll send him an email tonight.
Excuse me,
I'm sorry.
it's Karen. Does the board want to have any discussion about applying any of the surplus to this year's budget?
Oh, good question.
Remind me the number of the surplus without me look. Was that
20,000? It's 20,000, wasn't it?
I
Yeah,
didn't hear that.
approximately 20,000.
I'll just start off by saying, at least in Essex, we are looking hard. The joke, and it's not a joke, but if you have a reserve for some rainy day or rainy day fund, this is probably the year you want to apply it. There's a lot of individual taxpayers that are struggling with the COVID and the ramifications thereof. So if there was a year to use a reserve, I would say philosophically this would be a year to use it. So I'll start the discussion by saying, not with an amount, but philosophically, I'd be in favor of applying some of that excess shareholder equity to the situation this year.
How much do we normally keep in that surplus, Karen?
50,000.
The 20,000 is in excess of the $50,000 cushion we keep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then I would say that we should, that would be a good idea, Mike, to use that $20,000 to help lessen the burden on the town.
Well, last year we used 3,500 of it. Is that correct, Karen and Karen?
Yes.
So I don't know if all 20 is appropriate.
Maybe half, maybe
5 or 10?
and next year.
Yeah.
50-50.
Here's a point that you should consider. If you use the entire surplus this year in the budget, you would have to make up for that $20,000 next year.
Right.
So you have to think about, what position your town is in this year versus where you may be next year, which I think would maybe lend to perhaps not using it all in one year, maybe splitting it. Just a thought.
I just did a real quick calculation. I figured $10,000, that would be about 20 cents per person for the town. So we'd reduce it by 20 cents. So instead of $491, we'd be to $470 per person.
So what's in front of us now? 10,000 this year, 10,000 next year? It's this year we're really concerned about.
Well, I know all the towns are struggling this year.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what we're really going to see is next year, because I think the revenues probably will not be there from this year. I mean, we're just looking in here in Raleigh, some of the, I think the Bradford Tavern, it shut down.
It sure did.
So,
Oh, really? Oh.
and it's down to 40% that attendance in a restaurant. I mean, my heart goes out to these people working in the restaurants.
Bob, in my other life, there are serious projections that approximately 1/3 to half of the restaurants will not exist 2 years from now. And that could be conservative. So, you interpolate that to town revenues, and here in Essex, we draw a lot of benefit from that strip of restaurants on the causeway there. It's troubling. It's very troubling.
Yeah. I don't know. How do you want to address this? Do you want to go, split it 10 and 10, or do you want to hold off till next year when we could be really seeing some really drastic?
Well,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael.
I just say I'm in favor of holding off to next year because I agree with Bob. I think it's going to be doable this year, but no, it's going to be really a struggle next year.
Right. Yeah. After listening to Bob, then I would say that because this year we're coming in. What, Karen? What was it? How much more was it this year?
Oh, overall, it was like 3,500, 3,600.
Yeah.
But to be clear, and this is picking up Karen Summit's point, we did use 3,500 last year. So in theory, we're replacing that hole. Would it make sense to at least match last year's 3,500? And that would bring us to a flat number. Is that right, Karen? Year over year?
It would be flat pending any changes in population.
Right.
How's the board feel about that?
Well, I think that it probably may be prudent to hold off and wait till next year to see what all festers out. Hopefully we'll be back to normal, which is only a setting on your dryer anyhow, but hopefully
Good.
we'll be back to some semblance of normalcy.
Yeah.
If it
And-
was only just as easy as that, Doug, with just the setting on the dryer.
Yeah.
So Bob James wasn't able to be here, but I did speak with the town manager over in West Newbury, Angus Jennings, and to keep him involved. And so he said that he wasn't able to make tonight's meeting, but he felt comfortable with the conversation that we had. He said that he's, very happy with the number this year. He's happy that, it's such a slight increase and stuff. He said that's
Right.
fine. He said
Right.
that if, in regards to that $20,000, if it was up to him, he would like to, push it off or use, spread it out kind of as long as we could. And
Well, I just did a real quick calculation. I come out to 7 cents difference from last year.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's minimal.
So
Right.
I spoke with our town manager about this afternoon, and he suggested also waiting till next year. Our budget process is pretty well through, and
Excuse me.
we're in good shape for this year. So it makes sense, I think, to wait until next year and
Yeah.
see.
Okay,
Great.
is that the consensus?
Yep.
Can we do a roll call vote on the budget? Linda, can you call the roll?
Do we have a motion on
Oh,
that?
yeah, we need a motion first. We have a motion on the floor.
So I'll move to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second,
I have a second. All those in favor of the roll call vote. Linda, call the roll.
Under discussion, are we going to take a separate vote about using the reserves for next year, or should we just discuss that next year?
I think that was the motion. The motion was to keep the budget the way it is, correct, Doug?
Yeah.
So this,
As it's been presented.
as it presented.
Okay. All right. So there's a motion and a second, right? So all in favor, Doug from Georgetown,
Doris, aye.
Mike Doyle,
yes.
Bill Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Flynn,
Yes.
Bob Snow,
Aye.
and I am an I as well, Linda Alex.
I'm in here.
Okay, the
Right.
motion passes.
Daffy.
All right, thank you. I think that's it. There's nothing else to add on the budget? Nothing? Any other
Looks
comments? Okay, so, all right, so we can present to each of the towns so they can get moving on their budgets and know where they stand. I want to thank you so much for tonight. Mike Doyle, you get better, okay?
Well, I will. Only the good die young.
And Bob, so I just want to remind, so keep an eye out. What I'm going to do is I will put together the letters for the treasurers and also the town assessments.
Yes,
And so I will email all of you guys, and we can do a sign and scan type situation and stuff. So I'll just take charge of it and send it to each of you, and so that way, you can each sign it, and I'll take care of it. But
Okay.
that will be coming out. So just keep an eye out for it.
You probably also have the same discussion I'm going to talk about. We are going to have town meeting. How are you going to hold town meeting? So we don't know where we are with the COVID right now. We're still about to roll out. So I'm thinking probably we're going to be paralyzed again when it comes to Memorial Day.
Could be.
Yeah,
Okay. Right now, it doesn't look promising. So
not at all.
So that, unfortunately, that's where we are. So if that's the case, we'll probably go until June to, oh no, we have to, Karen, you have to do your assessment, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna do that. So we need another meeting. So let me see. We're looking at next month, March, or we need to start the process. Someone remind me.
I think it's April. Is it April?
April? Okay. Who did it last year? Linda, you did it, and Mike?
Yep, Mike Flynn. Yep.
Okay. Does anybody else want to volunteer before we send Mike and Linda on his volunteer? I'm already kidding. I'm already kidding.
I'm happy to participate again. It was a pleasure.
Okay, Mike. Linda, do you wish to?
Sure.
Anybody else wish to? Okay. Mike and Linda will do start the assessment, and that will start in, the review, I should say. And,
Yep. I
Okay.
think we started that process the beginning of May last year, I think.
Okay. All right.
So,
All right. So we'll we'll go with the flow right now, and probably sometime in the beginning of May, we'll have a meeting. Okay. That sound good?
That sounds good.
All right.
sounds like a plan.
Thank you this is the budget meeting. This always gets dragged out. So anyways, I want to thank you all for tonight to being together. So with that, I'll call for motion to adjourn.
Second.
So I have a motion. I have a second. I have a motion. Who gave the motion? So Eileen can hear.
I'll make the motion.
All right, thanks. Thanks. Second, Mike Flynn.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye,
All
aye.
right, aye. It's unanimous. All right, thank you, everyone.
Have a
Hey,
good night,
before
folks.
Bob and
Have a
Karen
nice
hang up,
February.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone. Thank you again.
Everybody, thank you.
Bob,
All right.
Bob Snow
Yes.
and Karen Tyler,